Okay.
Everybody's got that? 636 is the lucky number. 636. And yeah, this, so using two computers at once, it's exciting, huh? Very exciting, very exciting. And can you hear me? Yeah. All right. So, and then what I, again, to make things even more complicated, I can't, it's easier if they just let us use our laptops and bring them and hook them up to the projector. But I asked about it, and they so I have to do it like this, so that it's easier. Okay, so let's see now, and then I go to my where's my drive there? I don't want that. And so I want my drive, but I just installed my big drive here, because now I have to also remember that I have to quit recording early, because it takes a long time to record the the Zoom download to download it. And I just want to make sure everybody's in here. Is supposed to be in here. And so, okay, now I'm looking for my 200 gigabyte external drive. Does anybody see where it would be here? I posted it on the computer. Where's my flash drive? Is it here? Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. Okay. Oh, you know, I mean, it would just be simpler, you know, to just use my laptop and connect it to the, but they don't want us, they evidently can't figure that out. So, all right, so you've all done your sign in, all right, sign in. So what's next? Well, as you know, what is next includes, and you can't really see this, can you? On Cyber Campus, go to Cyber Campus, which is not on this screen. And let's see if I can, oh yeah, I got it. So go to assignments. See here that this is the week 6 debate, and nobody signed up. This is not on that screen. This is on the Cyber Campus. Nobody signed up for the debate, so we'll have an in-class. Yes.
Sir?
Yeah.
What's the attendance number? Sorry, I didn't hear the attendance number.
636.
636.
Yeah, 636. And
thank you.
And so back to attendance, and no, not attendance. Back to assignments, and we see here that so we'll have an in-class debate. Well, I guess we'll do it with the students here. We'll divide into 2 different groups, pro and con, and you'll come to the front of the classroom. And the rest of you will just watch, okay? That are in Zoom, we'll watch. And as also, what is also due is the midterm. Yay, midterm! So that is due tomorrow by 7 in the morning, right? And you can see here, the European Union policymaking take-home midterm exam paper assignment address the question, which is more powerful, the impact of the EU on its member states or the impact of the member states on the European Union? And that's taken from page 95 of the textbook. And yeah, I saw. So let me, and if I don't admit them, they'll not wrong one. If I don't admit them, I'll forget about it. So I go here, go here, and there we go. So I guess that's it then, right? People automatically should enter, right? Yay! Okay. I don't know how to disable the waiting room. I wish somebody would show me how to disable the waiting room so that I don't have to just admit them. I mean, I can do it on my computer. I can disable waiting room, and people just automatically enter the class. I don't have to admit them. But in the Korean version, apparently it's not so easy, right? I mean, I don't see where it says disable waiting room here. So anyway, so back to, okay, so I'm trying to do many different things here. So back on Cyber Campus, you can see, which is not displayed here because I don't remember my, my sign-in on this, your midterm is due tomorrow, and it's the same format as your paragraphs, right? Except that you are going to, let me see if I can do this here. Maybe I can do this, just a second. Sorry for being so slow here, but you know, I didn't know that today was a holiday until yesterday. Somebody told me it's a holiday after I scheduled everything and set up all the classes. And then I asked the secretaries, well, should I meet with the students? And they said, you can. And I said, well, should I? And they said, you can. And so I got a sense that the university wants me to meet with you. And I think they want me to meet with you because they care, and I have to do this the right way. Okay, I don't need this now. They care about the quality of your education. Oh, no. Right here. Share screen. Okay, we're back cooking with gas. What happened? Just a second. I wanted to share that screen. Where did it go? Okay. So are you, okay, we were sharing the screen. Okay, good. So I don't need to use my laptop. I remembered I had written down my sign information weeks ago. All right. So there's the sign in. So the assignments include the midterm exam here. And so it's the same format that you do your paragraphs with, right? That you, except it's longer, should be no longer than 500 words. Now including the references, you should use and cite information from how many different chapters? From chapters 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many? From at least 3. You can cite more information from more chapters, but make sure you use and cite information from at least 3 different chapters. Should I take this off? No? Okay. From at least 3 different chapters. From chapters 1 through 5. So you can use more information from more sources. You can do your own research. Make sure you use and cite information from at least 3 different chapters. Okay? And from chapters 1 through 5, because that's the first half of the semester. You make sure you cite information, with in-text source citations, and submit it through Cyber Campus. You see this mask is slipping. You submit through Cyber Campus, and then I will download it and send them back to you like I have been with the paragraphs, so that you can rewrite it and then send it to me after we talk about it in a couple weeks on Zoom. And I will set that up next week. I'll set up a Google Doc so you can sign up for a Zoom meeting with me to talk about your first draft of your midterm, okay? So, all right, so I'm very proud of myself now that I've figured out how to get back onto these 2 sites with your help. And okay, so now we go back to this file, and one of the nice things about being in my office is that I can run YouTube clips as sort of like the goal setting or mood setting for the class. And we're talking about the member states in chapter, what are we, chapter 4 now? Member states? Yeah, member states. And the member states are different. Obviously, the member states are very different from each other. The core of the European Union, what's typically described as the engine of the European Union is the Franco-British cooperation, the cooperation between France, not Franco-British, Franco-German cooperation between Germany and France. And when I was your age, 30 years ago, Germany was still divided. Well, just over 30. Oh, yeah. A year in 1990, about today, maybe a few days ago, Germany reunited. Germany and West Germany, East Germany reunited. But before that, when I was 18 years old, your age, 20 years old, Germany was divided, and there was always a threat of war. World War III, between the communist world and the West, NATO. And of course, no war happened, but there was always the danger. And of course, Germany was divided in 1945, and by 1980, when I was 18 years old, there were still many people who remembered World War II. I mean, my father, who just passed away, he was 8 years old when World War II ended. And he was strongly affected by that experience. As an 8-year-old boy, when the World War ended, he remembers when his father came back from the war. His father fought in the Italian army, was drafted in the Italian army, and apparently went all over the place. Africa, Yugoslavia, and then he was sent to the Soviet Union to fight with the Germans. And the Italian army performed very badly, like it did most of the time during World War II, and he was a prisoner. I can never get a clear, this is a side relationship, but it's still very important. It's very important for this topic for this week. My father told me that my grandfather was treated very well when he was a Soviet prisoner of war. Right? The Soviet Union, the Soviet authorities, he was captured by the Soviets, by the Russians, and they didn't kill him, they didn't hurt him. They knew he was a baker. He makes bread, pan, right? Pan, bread. And so they put him to work as a baker. And evidently he had a decent life. He was treated well, people were nice to him, I think. Because my father told me this a long time ago, but then he wouldn't talk about it because America is very anti-communist, because he was a member of the Italian Communist Party, along with his brothers. And I think that's why he was not treated badly. His the bad situation happened to him when I told you this is the Italian passport, right? With communist symbols on the front of it, to show you how influential the Communist Party really was, in claiming that they led the fight against fascism. And that fight against fascism continues today in the United States, in the rise of the far right in Europe. But my grandfather's hardship began when Italy changed sides. Mussolini was removed from power, and then the Soviet authorities told all of the Italian prisoners, go home, go, get out of here. You're no longer our enemy, so you can go back to Italy. And he just made them leave, and he had to walk. He had to walk back from the Soviet Union to Italy. And he got frostbite. He was always partially, I remember him, he was always partially unable to walk well because the damage to his feet from the freezing temperatures. And he died, I think, in 1984, 1982, or something like that, 1983, around when I was in college, when I started college. And so, and my father always felt, I think, abandoned, because his father was never around. And when his father came back, he didn't recognize him. Who was this man? He didn't know who he was. He had a long beard, he was a red beard, and he didn't get to know him. And it really had an impact. Now, you Koreans probably know this as well. You know, the Korean War happened in 1950 to 1953. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. Can you imagine in North Korea, they estimate that 20% of the population died in the Korean War, in North Korea. 20% from bombing. It's not only the people that experience the bombing, it's their children and grandchildren who are affected by that trauma. That trauma. Even here in South Korea, right? There's such difference between young people and old people, because the old people, they went through the 1950s, right? I was told when there was no food in South Korea, right? Now, you know, Koreans are getting the same problems we have in the West. People getting fat, you know, too much food. But but the battle against fascism is ongoing. And when we talk about the member states, Germany and France have always been, in a sense, still are, their cooperation, the driving force behind European integration. And Germany and France are nation states. Right? Germany and France, most people living in France feel French. Most of the people living in Germany feel German as number one sense of who they are. But in other countries, like what does it mean to be Macedonian? Macedonia is a small country that wants to join the European Union. It is in NATO, I believe, and it wants to join the European Union. Just to see if I can open up a file here, another file, Wikipedia. I always want to open up Wikipedia because Wikipedia, you know, it's not an academic source, but it's a good source of basic information. Although you have to watch it because people pay to put propaganda on Wikipedia. So you have to be careful because sometimes people put propaganda here because they know everybody reads it, right? But some of the material is nice, like the material in the European Union is pretty good, right? So it's now called North Macedonia. That little country wants to join the European Union. Let's see, I haven't been to this website recently, just to show you, if they show you what the ethnic makeup of Macedonia. I mean, only a little over 2 million people live there. What is this? That's the temperature, the climate. They're sensitive about, what's this? This country, and they're not really showing you. Oh, okay, linguistic map. So these people tend to be Albanians. These people tend to be Slavs. There's a little over 2 million people live here. 1/3 are Albanian Muslims. They do not say, I'm a proud Macedonian. Macedonia is not a nation state. It's a multi-ethnic state in which it's got lots of different groups, Greeks even as well. There are Greeks, there are Albanians, there are Turkish people. You can see there are Greek people here. There are Bulgarians, very complicated history. And this is where wars happen because these people often hate each other. Albanians and Macedonian Slavs, the people who are purple, colored purple here, they don't like each other. Albanians are viewed as backward, stereotyped as backward, cruel, barbarians who worked traditionally with the Turks, right? And I should tell you that, let me see if I can find, yeah, these are the Albanians. This is highlighted by the European Union as a successful effort by the European Union to prevent war, right? Remember, the European Union is supposed to be a peace strategy. So if it's going to be a strategy for peace, no war in Europe, it has to work to keep these people from killing each other. That's what peace means in Europe these days. It's not we have to worry about France or Italy trying to conquer Switzerland or Germany trying to conquer Poland. No. That's what they worried about in World War II. Peace in Europe means how do you keep these people who have often, not always, but often have a long history of hating each other. For reasons they blame each other, right? I told you how Macedonians and also Serbs up here and Greeks down here, Greece is down here, right? They said, oh, those Albanians, they always used to cooperate with the Turks when the Ottoman Empire ruled this area. The Turks were cruel. They made us into backward people because the Turks kept us out from being part of the rest of Europe because we were in that Turkish Ottoman Empire. And they tried to force us to convert to Islam and give up Christ and Jesus and become Muslims. And they used to rape our women and children and boys too. And that's the way they talk. Right? In Bulgaria, over here, I told you my office was right here in Bulgaria. That's the way they stereotype. And so, and then when this used to be part of the big country of Yugoslavia, these countries like Macedonia and Bosnia and Serbia and Croatia came out of the breakup of the Republic of Yugoslavia. The Federal Republic of Yugoslavia existed as 7 different regions.
And so these regions that were federal units, like Ohio and California, Texas, and the United States, or Queensland and the other provinces of Australia, they became independent countries. And weak, weak, and poor, corrupt, and weak governments and states. And they're democratic. They're supposed to be democracies now. And so the point I'm trying to make is that as these new countries try to organize themselves, these hatreds that have been left from over many generations became a source of political weapon, a source of political appeal for new politicians trying to be democratic to win votes, right? To get people to vote for them. And they would say, if I'm a Macedonian, this is Republic of Macedonia, Macedonia for the Macedonians! And you Albanians, well, you know, at best you're guests, at worst you're traitors, and you know what you do with traitors. Because you're probably working for Albania. Albanians over here, right? Albania. And you're Albanians, so you're probably loyal to Albania, and you're not loyal to Skopje, the capital of Macedonia. And Albania is going to try to maybe conquer this territory and take it from us. Because, of course, these maps, they show majority population. There's still Macedonian Slavic people living here, but they're a minority in these regions. So if this area breaks off and joins Albania, lots of Macedonian Slavic people will become minorities in a country of bigger Albania that they are going to, and they don't like that. They hate and fear Albanians generally. But I highlight Macedonia because it is the case that the European Union points to as a success story in developing the European Union's capability to intervene in these countries, to keep these hatreds of these people from escalating to killing. Really, it's not just hate, it's also fear. That, oh my God, Skopje is now independent. We no longer have a communist party controlling us. These nationalist Macedonians are going to take control of the police and the army. The guns! The guns! And they're going to use the guns against us and kill us, or drive us out and take our land. So we better get some guns too, and form our own police, our own army, a militia. And these people see these people getting guns from Albania. Oh my God, they're getting guns! What are they going to do with those guns? Oh, we better get our guns bigger. So you have fear and as well as hate together. Fear and hate together, fear and contempt together, feeding off each other, particularly during democratic elections. Vote for me and I'll protect you from the bad Albanians. Vote for me, I'm an Albanian leader, and I'll protect our people from these Macedonians who think we're scum. Vote for me. And freedom of speech, right? People are allowed to say pretty much what they want to say in a democracy, right? Yugoslavia fell apart in a blaze of democracy. Same is true of the Soviet Union. When they democratized, nationalism emerged among the different parts of the Soviet Union, among the different parts of Yugoslavia, and broke it up. So if you're about peace in the European Union, you have to deal with this. You have to deal with the fear. You have to be able to send in European armies, European soldiers, and European police. Calm down, I'm watching. Albanians, Macedonians, nobody's going to shoot anybody else. We're watching. See, we got our police forces there, we've got our military there, and if you're nice to each other, we'll give you some money for developing your roads and building your infrastructure, and we'll talk about you joining the European Union and getting access to all the wealth and trade and doing business with the European Union. You like that? You like that? Yeah, I know you like that. But if you kill each other, You can't join the European Union. You're going to stay poor forever and corrupt forever. And this was the last place that was moving towards war when I was in Bulgaria, right? I went to Bulgaria, the American University in Bulgaria, located here in Blagoevgrad, Bulgaria. And I went there in 1994, and the war ended about 1994. And then the war ended in 1995. And then fighting escalated in Kosovo, which is up here, part of Serbia, in 1999, and that led to a war. NATO and the United States bombed Serbia for 76 days in 1999 until Serbia gave up Kosovo. And then fighting started to escalate here in 2000. 2001, and the European Union, with the United States, took a major lead in stopping that. And so far, so good. But it's not because people like each other, they hate each other. Macedonians don't hate. Right? But, you know, nationalism is not the only motivation for political behavior. So, the point I'm trying to make in terms of the chapter that you're reading, the member states, the states of the European Union are very, very different from each other. You have United Germany and France, nation states. Germany is not really like this. France is not like this. I know they have lots of people coming from Syria and Afghanistan and Africa, but they're immigrants. Like my father immigrated to the United States. My father did not go to America saying, I'm Italian, I'm Italian. He said, please give me a job. I'm a good American. I'm a good American. I'm a good American. I'll teach my son and my children English. I don't know Italian, right? My father did not want me learning Italian because he was afraid it would make my life more difficult if other Americans heard his children speaking language, not English, right? So, yeah, I know hundreds of thousands, millions of Africans and Arabs and Iraqis and Syrians live in France and Germany, but they're immigrants. These people have been living in this area for centuries. Their families, right? So they have a different mindset than immigrants do. And so, Poland is a nation state like Germany and France. 95% of the people in Poland believe that they're Polish. There's still a few 100,000 that are Jews that are not Polish. But Poland's pretty close to being an ideal nation state due to, well, I mean, due to World War II and mass murder, genocide, and forced ethnic cleansing, population movements by the Soviet army and the German army. Mass murder, ethnic cleansing, changing borders, and today 95% of Poland is Polish. In 1939, only 60% of Poland was Polish. Today, 95% is, because of horrible, 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 horrible violence. But there are other states that are not nation states that join the European Union, like, for example, Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia used to be a state, and it no longer exists. You don't even know what Czechoslovakia is, do you? Right? If I type in Czechoslovakia here, getting the way. Or I already talked about Belgium. Belgium is not a nation state. So Belgium doesn't act, doesn't act like Poland or historically, or Italy historically. It's a small country, right? This is, you know, Belgium here, and here's Netherlands, and here's Luxembourg. This is Czechoslovakia, and then this is Czechoslovakia after World War II, and then it broke apart because Czechs and Slovaks don't like each other. They didn't break up violently. It's called the Velvet Divorce, right? The Velvet Divorce, because Slovaks believe that Czechs think that they're stereotyping the stupid peasants. The you Slovaks, like the way sort of how Japanese talk about Koreans. That we brought civilization to you. We made you civilized people. Slovaks say, you, right? And how do you deal with that? You make your own country. Yeah, I make a lot of these comparisons. So this country broke up in 1992, and then it joined the Europe. Both of them, Slovakia and Czech Republic, joined the European Union in 2004, right? So as I said, nationalism is the main challenge to peace in Europe. And you have violence going on, as we said earlier, right? You have violence going on right now. You don't see Ukraine here in this picture. Yeah, see if they got Ukraine, they don't even bother to draw a border. Yeah, so this is where Czechoslovakia was broken up between Slovakia and the Czech Republic. And in terms of big countries cooperating with each other, this, by the way, is the car manufacturing capital of Europe, if not the world. They make more cars per person than anywhere else in the world, Slovakia. GM has plants there. I think Hyundai opened a plant in the Czech Republic. Hyundai, right? Hyundai. They opened up a plant in the Czech Republic. But other companies have opened up a lot of plants here in Slovakia. And so this is a really big manufacturing area. And it's doing quite well. They're doing fairly well. They had a nationalist upsurge around authoritarian populists, but those people have receded into the background. There's, you see it here, like here's Slovakia. There's a lot of Hungarians here. There's hundreds of thousands of Hungarian people. See, Hungary is here. This is Hungary. Magyar, they call it Magyar in Hungarian language. Slovaks stereotype Magyars as arrogant, nasty people that controlled them as peasants during the Habsburg Empire. And this is all part of the empire of the Habsburgs ruled from Vienna. So again, this issue of nationalism, minorities, suspicion, fear, contempt, all are part of nationalism. Nationalism, stereotyping, and emotion all go together. Right? A point I've been trying to make repeatedly in this class. And that is the main challenge. One of the reasons for that upsurge in authoritarian populism in the early 1990s was, as I told you, there's hundreds of thousands of Hungarians live here, and they tend to look down on everybody else. You people are peasants. Hungarians supported the Habsburg Empire before it broke apart. We know because the Hungarian army actually fought well in World War I to defend that empire, along with the Austrians. But everybody else, there's stories about how thousands and thousands of Czech soldiers in the Austrian Empire, they were confronting the Russian Imperial Army because Russia was at war with Austria at this time. And they just got up and walked across the battle line and joined the Russians. Like 100,000 of them. Just got up. The only military that the Italian Republic had success against in World War I was Austria. Right? Austria, because multi-ethnic empires do not fight well. Nation states fight well. I'm fighting for France. I'm fighting for the United States. I'm fighting for China because I am Chinese. I'm a Slovak peasant. I'm going to fight for the German, Austrian, Habsburg Emperor. And make this even more complicated because everybody knows this in Europe, what I'm telling you, and they don't want to talk about it, but we have to talk about it because it's part of nationalism and stereotyping and emotion. When Hitler's Germany was expanding, the first thing it did was destroy this, Czechoslovakia. First, it took this territory here, where German minority lives. This Sudetenland means southern lands, because Germany's up here, this is in the south, so these are the southern lands. Hitler said, I want the Germans in Czechoslovakia, this fake state created after World War I. What the hell is this, Czechoslovakia? What is that? It was created in 1919 by Woodrow Wilson. What the heck is Czechoslovakia? The Germans call these states Seisenstaaten, states for a season. This is a joke. That's the way the Russians describe Ukraine. Ukraine was created by Stalin. Never existed before. And now we're going to give up Crimea to this? What? No. Why don't you give Jeju Island to Japan? How do you Koreans feel about giving Dope Island to Japan? Give Dope Island to Japan. It's Japanese, after all. That's how Russians feel about Crimea. We're going to give up Crimea to Ukraine that wants to join NATO and the European Union? You're crazy. No! Okay, so, but to go back to the story here, and then Hitler just simply invaded the whole country of Czechoslovakia and put a Slovak nationalist, a Songu, a Catholic priest named Father Tisho, as their ruler for Slovakia in the German Empire. Father Tisho. Songu is how you say father in Catholic priest. What's a Catholic priest in Korean language? Songu? Huh? Songu, right? Shingu Tiso was his name. And he was the ruler of Slovakia. And then after World War II, they hung him for allies, hung him for cooperating with the Nazis. But the point is, these people, they have a sympathy with the Germans. Because for the first time, we Slovaks had our own country under Hitler, but we had our own country. And they, Czechs remember that. And the same goes on with Yugoslavia. Croatia became an independent, powerful country under the Germans and the Italians against the disliked, stereotyped Serbs. So that's the legacy of nationalism, minorities, and peace that you have to address if you are trying to show that the European Union, which began as the European Coal and Steel Community, can expand and bring peace to Europe, where, as I told you before, right, we already have war underway in another part of an area that's very much, has many people living in it who claim that they are very much European, right? Armenians. So over this area, Nagorno-Karabakh, again, this was Stalin's idea. Stalin and Lenin came up with this idea because Armenian nationalism was powerful leading up to World War I. Armenians, so complicated. It's not complicated. It's just that I'm afraid I'm not explaining it well. These, okay, let's just get to the theory. Armenians are seen in Asia and Europe the way Jews are seen in Asia and Europe. They're seen as people that are stereotyped as aggressive, as money-grubbing, nasty people who care only about themselves, who let's see if I can find, what did I put it in the wrong? Maybe I did. Oh, 1 second. Ethnocentrism. Where's ethnocentrism? Huh. Just a second. Just a second. I know I have it here somewhere. I thought Huh. Ah, frick. Oh well. Okay, I have to do it the hard way, the old way, the old-fashioned way. Here is a country, let us say, like Poland in 1939. You have three different groups in this, ethnic groups in this society. In this country that's called Poland in 1939, let's say Poland 1939. Or let's say Germany. Germany, this is Germany 1939. This is one ethnic group. This is typically the majority. And this is another ethnic group minority. This is a minority and this is a minority. These three different groups go through a process that is natural and happens everywhere in terms of becoming politically active and aware and conscious of who they are. Let me tell you a story. Imagine here at Catholic University of Korea, the complete computer science department makes a new amazing miracle machine that allows you to travel through time. And let's say you can go back to time and pop up anywhere outside in the world, anywhere you want to, at any time in history. If you go back, let's say you set this time machine for 1,000 years ago, in what we call France today. So you set it for 1020 AD. And you study before you go, and you learn what those people look like. You learn their language in the dialect, right? Because they don't all speak French. And you pop up out of this time machine in the middle of the countryside, because 95% of the people there, they're peasants who live in villages, not cities. Cities are small. They're lucky if they got 10,000 people in them. Not like Seoul, right? You go walking along the countryside, and you see this small, dirty, poor person trying to work on the land, probably plant something to grow some wheat for bread, right? And you notice how small they are. Like, they might really come up to here to me. If they stand next to me, because they grew up in poverty, so they didn't have enough food, right? They were malnourished when they were babies and children. So they only grow this tall compared to me. Literally. I mean, I've seen statues of people from the Middle Ages in museums, and they come to there here to me. So I look like a giant. And I asked that person, let's assume that person doesn't run away. That person doesn't say, I asked them, who are you? Who are you? And they're going to say, I'm John. John who? John. I'm John. 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 John, I live over here in the village. That's it. He's not going to say, well, foreigner, I'm French. Who are you? They don't know what France is yet. They know their village, they know their priest, their shingle, right? And they know their Yanban, who has the good guy because he eats a lot when he was a child. He's allowed to have weapons, mobile, right? A sword. And he takes 1/3, let us say, about 1/3 of your crops every year. And he does it because it's his ancient right, and if you don't give it to him, he'll chop your head off. In return, he will protect you from other Yanban and other criminals and marauders and brigands in this early mafia protection system, mafia protection act. organized crime detection methods. You're going to give me 1 billion products in return on it. Yes? Okay, I can read. I'm a young one, so I learned how to read and write. You're an illiterate, poor, poverty-stricken peasant. We even have a term for that still today in English, to cast a spell on somebody. Halloween is coming. Halloween, you know, witches and warlocks and wizards can cast a spell. To spell, to write, like you write now, if you're writing your names, right? It looks like some kind of magical ability. This Shinbu and this Yangan, they know how to open the Bible and read the Bible and tell me what's in it. That person in John in that village does not know what France is. But over the years, and decades, and generations, things start to change. Things start to change because the economy is changing. It's always changing. But now, the pace of change in the economy is accelerating. It's changing faster and faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And so, you start to see the world around me is changing along with the economy. Previously, Jean, he doesn't know about change. He doesn't know about economy. He just knows the world. And in this world, God is everywhere. Economy is everywhere. He makes the sun come up. He makes the sun go down. He makes it summer, fall, winter, and spring. He makes it rain. He makes it sunny. He makes the mountains. He makes the village. He made the Yanban, and this is the way God made it, and this is the way God must want it. But as the pace of economic change accelerates, people begin to see that people's conditions change. As, for example, they make more money, particularly focused in the towns. Townsmen who do trade are making more and more money. And people see in the town and later in the village that Yanban respects those people who have more money because they're making more money through more trade and business. And you know what? They're able to get things. And they can change their condition. They can change their status, their level of respect, their influence. The point I'm trying to make is that this pace of change accelerates, beginning with the economy, and people become aware of the fact that the world changes because people make it change. People make the world. People create their own destiny, not economy, not Allah. You and me make our world. And if that's true, you can think about changing your condition, your position in the world. Make some more money. The definition of being modern is how you get status. Let me ask you, what's your name? You respect me? You respect me? Why do you respect me? Yeah, I got a PhD. I supposedly achieved a lot. Studied. I've taken tests and got high grades. I got a job. And you think, Professor Ben, I respect you or fear you or both because you have achieved a lot compared to everyone else. But in traditional societies, that's a modern society, my status, the respect you give me, the honor and respect you give me, the fear and awe you have towards me is supposed to be determined by what I have achieved. What do you think I have achieved? What have I achieved? How much money have I earned? What is my credit rating? How many college degrees do I have? Oh, you have a PhD. Oh. But in traditional societies, remember, harmony rules everything. In traditional societies and people's thinking, harmony decides everything. Harmony said, if you're a woman, you're below a man. That's what God said. It's in the Bible. Harmony put the Yangan on top of me. Harmony made everybody who they are the way they are. If I'm a peasant, it's because God made me a peasant. And for me to think, no, I don't want to be a peasant. I want to be a Yangan. Blasphemy! You are sinning against God because you want to change the existing order. Maybe you're a witch. A witch! You're weird, you're strange, you've got money, and you're a single woman. How can you be a single woman, a widowed woman, and have money? You're supposed to be married. Witch! Witch! Burn her! Burn her! Blasphemy! So in traditional societies, your status is given to you. It's ascribed to you. Your status is ascribed to you. You get status not through achievement, you get status through ascription. You are a student, you're supposed to be here on time. That's what the rules say. And you didn't act like this way a student should act. Ascription, status through ascription. Your status is given to you. It's ascribed to you, right? And this is traditional society. You don't earn your status, it's assigned to you by your birth. By your birth. And ladies and gentlemen, this never goes completely away. Korea became a modern society in the 20th century. Recently. And through the 19th century, up until the Japanese occupation, it was a traditional society. That means the people living in Korea 200 years ago did not know what Korea was. In the mountains there, they don't know what Korea is. They know their village. That's it. There are some Yanban in Seoul who do know what Korea was, Chosun Korea, but they're a tiny, tiny section of the population, right? A tiny section of the population at the very top, right? These people are politically aware. These people above this line, well, let's make this a bit easier to see. These people are politically aware. In other words, they're aware of the fact that human beings make this world can change, and they want to participate in making this world. Right? They want to politically participate because they understand that humans decide whether or not we live well or live badly, or fight and die, or in war, or stay at peace. And for that political awareness to emerge, you have to become also aware of the fact that people make this world. And that, like I told you, it never completely goes away, this ascription status. To this day, you Koreans all know this. A doctor is not supposed to tell a pregnant woman what the sex of the baby will be, right? Why? Because in traditional societies, particularly everywhere, but also in Asia, male baby is ascribed higher status than a female baby. And if they find out that the baby is going to be female, they will kill it. And it still happens in India. There are tens of millions of girls missing in this world because the parents gave birth to a daughter, they don't have enough money. Try again and make a boy. So it never completely goes away, the memory, the legacy of being traditional. Right? It changes. I mean, South Korea had a female president, but it never completely goes away. Right? And, and so the people on top of this line, this is the population of this minority group. Let's say these are Jews or Armenians. These people have a legacy or a history of being tradespeople, business people, going back thousands of years. The Jews were doing business for centuries before the Romans came to that area and named it Palestine. Palestina was the Roman diocese name of that area. And then when Judea and Samaria fell under the Romans, the Jews followed the Roman legions all throughout Europe, doing business. Right? So Jews go through this change process of a shift from ascription to achievement as the base of status first. And with this shift from ascription to achievement as the basis for gaining status in society, there are four critical trends that accompany that. One, I already told you, one, people become politically aware and they want to participate in politics. Right? If people make this world, then they determine my well-being, whether or not I live or die. And I want a voice. I want to participate. They also go from just being Jean of the village, like my father's family came from Capitignano, village in the mountains outside of Rome, right? Hermano from Capitignano, to becoming aware of the fact that, hey, you know what? Everybody who wears hanbok and speaks Hangul here in the Japanese Empire, we're treated like garbage. We're not treated the same way people who wear Japanese clothes are and speak Japanese language. Everybody who's like me, right? They dress in white. They speak a language I understand, sort of. You know what? We're all poor. We're not allowed to become rich and powerful. Hey! I don't like that! People's identities shift from Jean of Capitignano to becoming Jean of France or Romano of Italy. That all of those people who are sort of like that share a common past and are fated to share a common destiny because of who they are. Korean, French, Italian, Japanese, Chinese, Russian, German, American. So people become politically participatory, they acquire large self-identities. You go from just being Jean of the village, to become French, Chinese, Russian. China has 1.3 billion people in it. And your typical Chinese citizen feels very strongly about the imagined status of that Chinese nation in the world. They think very personally if the Americans try to take Taiwan away, even though they've never been to Taiwan. They don't know anybody from Taiwan. They only hear about Taiwan on the news. But when the Communist Party tells them, they get very emotional about Taiwan. Or the South China Sea, well, you're never going to meet any Korean comfort women. The Korean women were forced as sex slaves during the Japanese. But you feel very strongly about them if you're a typical Korean. It's wrong, feminist people, oh, you never met them, you never meet them, you don't even know them, and you feel very strongly about it. Why? Because you're Korean nationalists, that's why. Nationalism is the most powerful force for change in world politics. The most powerful force for change. They broke up Czechoslovakia, they broke up Yugoslavia, they broke up the Soviet Union, they broke up the British Empire, and it's still breaking up countries. Like Sudan. So, thirdly, you see new leaders emerge. You're no longer the Shinbu is the guy, oh, Shinbu, tell us what we should do. Yanban, tell us what we should do. You get replaced the Yanban, and the Shinbu, and the Sultan, and the Pasha, and the Duke, and the Earl, and the Baron with guerrilla fighters. People who fight the Japanese occupation. Trade union leaders who organize Korean workers to strike against Japanese factory owners in the Japanese Empire. Teachers who teach about the glorious Korean history that you never learned when the Japanese controlled the school system. Professors, journalists, Editors, they become the new elite, replacing the old traditional elite. Unless the Americans intervene, like in Saudi Arabia, and keep the Yanban House of Saud in power, or the Sabah family in power in Kuwait, which is what they do, because they're afraid of their nationalism. Their nationalism threatens Israel. And fourthly, as you become politically aware, you want reform. You want standard rules. I'm the Yanban. It's always been my ancient feudal right. You have to give me 1/3 of your corn, of your rice, every year. You say, but why? And I say, it is my ancient feudal right. God wants it that way. You go, no, I don't think so. Everybody should be taxed the same. Not given more taxes over here to this Yanban and more tax over here to this Yanban because, well, we've always done it for hundreds of years. No! One set of rules and roles for the Republic of France, for the Republic of Italy. Everybody should be treated equally. And what that means varies over time, I know. So, standardization of institutions is the fourth critical term. Reform, reform, reform. And my ancient feudal right goes from being, oh, the will of God to corruption, corruption. Now I'm a corrupt guy. Because the way we've been doing things for hundreds of years is no longer considered correct and ethical in the era of nationalism. You can't give me gifts if you're a college. I'm a college. When I first came here, Korean students always gave me gifts. Coffee, pastries. And then things started to change because they're not supposed to give me gifts. I'm not even supposed to accept them because it looks bad. But 100 years ago, of course you give your professor gifts. And we're not supposed to accept it now because if they look like bribes, so that I will give you a better grade because I like you, because you gave me a pretty baguette or cake. Wow. So Jews go through this process first, and this should be down further, right? And this is the core group. These are the majority population, the ethnic Germans. And then let's say these are like Polish people, right? They go through this process of awareness first. More and more of this population becomes politically aware, not because I told you, because they're the ones leading the business and trade activity in Europe, or Armenians in Europe and in Asia and in the Middle East, right? So, and these people, well, and we can divide these into two different groups, right? Remember, these people down here, they don't know what Germany is. They're peasants, illiterate, they live in what we call Germany, but they don't know what Germany is. These people both do. These people are the traditional Yanban, and these people are the new emerging Yanban elite. The dukes, the Shinbu, the Pasha, the Sultan, the Emperor, the trade union leaders, the guerrilla resistance fighter leaders, the teachers, the professors, the journalists. They want radical change. These people are aware of the potential of change, and they say, Amiyo, because they like being on the top. They like being a sultan, or a pasha, or a duke, or a king, or a traditional leader, right? These people go through it a little bit more slowly, and they're the core. Typically in Europe, the core group is the name of the country. Is the name of the country. So what's the core ethnic group in Germany? Say it. Yeah. What's the core ethnic group in Bulgaria? Bulgaria. What's the core ethnic group in Poland? Right. What's the core ethnic group in Switzerland? Right, it's not always so easy. There are cases where nationalism is based not on ethnic, cultural self-identity, but in terms of territory. So supposedly, Switzerland is an example of a state in Europe, maybe the only example in which the nationalism of that country is based on a territory. I am Swiss, and I can be ethnically German, or French, or Italian, but if Germany invades Switzerland, German Swiss will shoot their weapons, their guns at them. They'll kill them, supposedly. Remember, they might feel a sympathy for Germany because they are Germans, but they're going to still kill them if they invade Switzerland. Territorial nationalism, what's the core group of the US? United States. Again, not so easy to define. It's more implicit typically in the immigrant societies of North and South America, Australia, New Zealand. The core group is typically the first group to arrive and create the modern state. So in the United States, the core group is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. It's the group into which I assimilate, the WASP. White Anglo-Saxon Protestant, WASP group. Like me. I don't even speak Italian. My father married an English, German, working class woman, and I'm more like her, because we're always more like our mothers, right? I don't even speak Italian, I just got this funny last name, make me cool. Yeah, I'm the only wasp. I'm like the Godfather. Yeah. It becomes a superfluous, interesting story that we tell amongst Americans to feel good about America as the melting pot. That we come from all over the world, and if you work really hard, whether you come from Korea or Italy or Ireland or China, you can succeed. And sometimes you have to break the rules. But if you break the rules and they're successful, we only care if they're successful. This is what Donald Trump is all about. It's all part of our mythology, our national mythology. Right? Mythologies are fairy tales. Mythologies are fairy tales. and these people will view these people with envy. Envy, like I said, you can't explain emotion. You can't explain politics unless you include emotion. So, what is the stereotype we have of Jews? These people will view these people with envy. In other words, they already have what I want. They have more money, they're more educated, they're more skilled in acting and operating in the world, and they get good jobs as college professors and even the United States. Jews are only 3.5% of the population in the US, and it seems like in political science departments, they're overwhelmingly, heavily disproportionately Jewish, right? And so I want to be respected. I want lots of money. And you people, you don't act the right way. You don't act like us. We are, these people assume, they tend to assume, they tend to assume that since they are the dominant, biggest group in the society, that they are the normal group. That they decide what is the right way to behave and the wrong way to behave. What's a good American or a good American way to think and act, and a bad anti-American way to think and act. And these people don't look like us. They don't worship like us. They don't go to churches. They go to the temple. They didn't believe in Jesus Christ. They killed Jesus. and I view them with envy. They have something I want that I think that they do not deserve. They don't act in the right way. I act in the right way. They should act like me, because we're America. We're Poland. We're Germany. So this is the anti-Semitic stereotype. And this can lead to genocide, like it did during World War II, and is And it did against the Armenians when the Ottoman Empire was collapsing 100 years ago. And the Armenians today, on the news media, reminding everybody, it's again, they're trying to kill us all like they did 100 years ago. Oh, the Azeri Turks and the Turkish army from Turkey is again going to kill us all. Oh my God. Right? Genocide. The Armenians are viewed the same way as Jews. Pushy, stereotype, pushy, aggressive. They will sell their mom, their army for money, right? And in terms of politics, they're not loyal. They're not loyal to Germany. They're stereotyped. Stereotype, I'm not saying it's true. Their stereotype is not loyal to Germany. They're loyal to themselves. They care only about themselves. And we are tools to be manipulated and exploited by them. The way Poles talk about Jews. I mean, you can do this for Poland too. Poles feel ashamed of themselves towards Germans, and they feel that way towards Jews as well. But anyway, just let me continue here. This is the anti-Semitic stereotype. This is how Armenians are stereotyped throughout the Middle East, that they're not loyal. They're not loyal to the Ottoman Empire. And what do? You're at war, a life and death war, a struggle between the Ottoman Empire and the Russian Empire. And the Armenians are saying, hey, Russia, if you intervene and win this war and promise you'll create an Armenia country out of Turkish territory, we'll fight for you. We'll help you win the war against the Ottoman Empire in 1918. What do you do to those people? Betrayers. You kill them. And they did. They often will cooperate with outside actors, whether it be the Russians, or the British, or the French in the Middle East, because they're afraid of these people. They're a minority. These people are becoming politically aware too, and they don't like these minorities. And these people are often afraid. And so they cooperate, like I told you, with the British or the French. You see this again and again. Armenian minority groups in Egypt and in Iran cooperating with the British or the Germans because they're afraid of these people, the core. These people, this is not the anti-Semitic stereotype. These are viewed in a neutral way as childlike, backward, silly children, because they're further behind in the change process. So their stereotype is being, by these people, stereotype them as needing to be civilized. That these people are doing them a favor by controlling them, by uplifting, the way the Japanese view the Koreans, because Korea was behind Japan on this change process. But we Japanese did you a favor. We brought civilization. I mean, this makes you upset? This makes you angry? What I'm saying? Yeah, because this is nationalism. The way Japanese nationalists talk about Korea. That we did favor for Korea. We made Korea modern. This is the way African Americans are stereotyped in the United States. That you African Americans, Black Lives Matter. You should be grateful that we white people took your ancestors from Africa, that backward, ridiculous place where they engaged in cannibalism. You are lucky to be here in America. White civilization made America great, not African, Hispanic culture. Donald Trump is all about this. He's all about this. As these people, pretty soon, in 15, 20 years, the white people will no longer be a majority in the United States. And they know it. These Hispanics, African Americans, indigenous people, Asians, I think, are more like Jews. They tend to be high achieving. These people are considered to be high achieving, right? Asian Americans, they tend to be high achieving like Jewish Americans. And, but like Jews, Asian Americans are willing to marry into the core group. They'll marry white people. And so they assimilate. If you're a Jewish nationalist, probably very focused on Israel, you're going to be upset about that. And you're going to try to convince Jewish men and Jewish women in America, marry other Jews. Don't marry non-Jews. Otherwise, we'll disappear. This is the way gypsies in Europe, in Bulgaria, in Romania are stereotyped. They're late. What's the childlike stereotype? Well, think about children. Children don't like to work, right? They're undisciplined. They lack good hygiene. You have to make a child take a bath, right? And they like to play. They like to play. And that's the stereotype of gypsies. The gypsies love to party. And sometimes, of course, what's most tragic about these stereotypes is that this is a backward stereotype, right? Is that sometimes these people internalize it. You get told this over centuries. That you are childlike, you're a baby. Remember, people want to get through this world with as minimum amount of pain and hurt as possible. So if I'm a black person and you're a white person, please don't abuse me. Please. See, I am childlike. Do I abuse you? I make you laugh? I make you happy? Oh, look how well I dance. Black people are good dancers, is the stereotype. They're good musicians. Right? Happy-go-lucky, fun-loving people. But they don't like to work. They're lazy. If you get married in Bulgaria at your wedding celebration, you have to hire a gypsy band because gypsies are the best musicians. Stereotyping is law-like. I'm telling you something that I think I get excited about because I'm telling you something that's a secret to Homo sapiens. I'm telling you this with all of this excitement because I think I'm sort of like Jesus, John the Evangelist in the Bible. I'm telling you the truth about human beings. This is something in our DNA that shapes our brains. We are programmed to engage in stereotyping. It's law. I mean, think about this. Jews are stereotyped this way in Europe. Armenians are stereotyped this way in the Middle East. Chinese minority is stereotyped this way in Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Same way, money grubbing, aggressive, and not loyal to Indonesia. They're loyal to themselves and to Xi Jinping. Not to Indonesia. Not to Malaysia. Filipinos also, same stereotype. I mean, that's amazing. You mean gypsies, African Americans, Koreans in Japan? They're all stereotyped like this, thousands of kilometers apart. Wow! This is something about Homo sapiens and our brains and how our DNA works. If it's true, it's amazing. And I think it's true. And this can lead to genocide. This is the way Kurds are stereotyped in Turkey and in the Arab world, backward, lazy. And the way Albanians are stereotyped. The Kurds, Albanians are behind this process. And so they tend to cooperate with the Ottomans. Who killed the Armenians 100 years ago? It was Turkish soldiers, but they relied upon Kurdish militia also. The Ottoman rulers relied upon the Kurdish groups to kill them. In the British Empire, who were the best fighters for the British? The Gurkhas from Nepal. Right? These people are traditional. They obey their local tribal leader. They're loyal to their tribe, their group. They're not nationalists. And all of the stereotype of being warriors and fighting to the death, it all applies to them. So these people will provide the elites, collaborating with the British and the French in Asia and Africa, and these people provide the militia, the soldiers, enforcing to suppress these people. You tend to see. And as these groups are suppressed, right? The British come in, or the French, and they suppress these because these are the nationalists, right? They can collaborate with the traditional Yangban because the Yangban are threatened by nationalism. So they will appeal and work with the British or the French to suppress these people. The liberals, the reformers, the progressives, who talk about constitutional reform and republics and democracy and all of the things, because the point about the reason why this class is in English and not in Chinese is because Europe is about 100 years ahead of everybody else in this inevitable process. This happens everywhere eventually, but it starts in Europe. It happens first in Europe, and the biggest public demonstration of the impact of nationalism is what? The French Revolution in 1789. Yeah, the American thing happened in North America, but that was immigrant society. But the French Revolution, Europe is about 100 years ahead of Asia, 100 years ahead of Korea. And think about that. You cannot have a modern economy unless you have a shift from ascription to achievement as the basis of status. You cannot have a modern economy. Think about you. You worry so much. Oh, I have a test coming. I have to study hard to get a good grade so that I will respect myself and my parents will respect me. I have big dreams, and I'm going to just work hard and be ambitious in order to improve my status through achievement. If you're ambitious, it's because you're aware of the fact that status is a gain through achievement, that the world changes. You cannot have a modern economy without the shift from ascription to achievement as the basis of status in that society. You live this. We live this in a world of anxiety and fear. Oh, I got a bad grade. Oh, I failed. I failed. Oh, my mom's going to be so disappointed. That's severity. That's being modern. In traditional societies, you get the disease, die. You don't think about changing your condition. You're a peasant, just like your father was a peasant, and his father was a peasant. If you live in a city, you're Mr. Miller because you mill the grain. And you're Mr. Miller because your dad was a miller. And your grandfather was a miller. And his father was a miller. And your son will be a miller because you're the millers. Or the tailors. Or the bakers. Or the fletchers. You know, put the feathers on the arrow, the fletching arrow. The fletchers. The bakers. The smiths. The people that work and put iron and put shoes on horses. That's what you are. That's what your family is. And when you have a modern economy, what do you have? Power. That's why the British Empire and the English Empire, and before them the Spanish and the Portuguese Empire conquered the world. Because they were 100 years ahead of everybody else. In this process of the shift from ascription to achievement as a basis of status. That's why this class is in English. And this, so the French did not give Koreans nationalism. The French did not give the Japanese nationalism. The French did not give the Chinese nationalism. It's an inevitable process. But contact with the Europeans and their imperialism, and you Koreans with the Japanese imperialism, that's a reaction to American and other imperialisms. Your shift in identity will be accelerated by this contact with imperialists. It's a shock to the world of what the Japanese are doing in Korea, right? Forcing you to build roads so they can prepare to invade Manchuria, right? I mean, I read that North Korea was disproportionately industrialized by the Japanese because they wanted to use Korea as a jumping off point to invade Manchuria in China, right? And they make you do this. And they come into your village and they abuse you, and you become politically aware. Oh my God. And this nationalism spreads to Vietnam and defeats the Americans with all of their weapons, defeats the French before the Americans with all of their technology and all of their weapons. Defeating the Americans in Afghanistan. Of course, the Americans, or the British, or the French, or the Japanese, they might play off groups against each other, right? I told you, I showed that picture of Macedonia, right? These groups don't like each other. So you, British and the French, will play one group off against another. You know what's going on in Myanmar, right? The horrible suffering of the Rakhine, the Rohingya people. I read in the newspaper, I always suspected this. The Rohingya Muslims tended to fight with the British against the Japanese during World War II because they were here. Whereas Buddhist nationalists, they tend to cooperate with the Japanese because the Japanese were the enemy of the British. The British controlled the area. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Who are the enemy of the British? The Japanese. So Buddhist, Burmese nationalists tended to fight with the Japanese. And this is happening at this critical time in what we call Myanmar, or Burma. And that defines what it means to be Burmese. You hate Muslims. Because when I opened up my eyes, I saw these Muslims fighting for the British when we're trying to liberate our country from the British Empire. And the Japanese claimed that that's what they were doing. We're fighting this war to liberate Asia from white, racist, European imperialism. Oh, we're so good, we Japanese, trying to save you Koreans and you Indonesians and others from racist European imperialism. The Greater East Asian Co-Prosperity Sphere, they call their empire. And hatred, genocide, hatred. Kill them all, drive them out, ethnically cleanse them. Traitors, traitors, traitors. We're sick of them. And now to go back to the European Union, this is what these people face in Macedonia and Bosnia and these other countries, right? Because that same dynamic I'm describing here happens everywhere. It happened in Bosnia. The way Serbs, see if I have what I have here in terms of so yeah, I guess in terms of the member states are very different, obviously. Germany and France are nation states. Bosnia, Macedonia are not nation states. They want to join the European Union. It's easier to join the European Union if you are a nation state. Like in Slovenia, they're also one of the 7 republics from the old Yugoslavia. There are only 2 million of them. They're going to join the European Union in 2004. But everybody knows that Slovenia is Slovenian. Croatia joined in 2013. Everybody who's in Croatia is Croatian. That's not a big problem. You've got issues in Bosnia, Macedonia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. Armenians desperately want to join the European Union. They say, yes, we're European. They'll be the first to tell you our ancient kingdom of Armenia in the year 300 was the first kingdom to adopt Christian religion as the official religion of the country. It was Armenia. Even before the Romans did, the Armenian ancient kingdom adopted. So we're more European than anybody else. We're not Asian. Asia. The stereotypes, right? The stereotypes of Asia as being backward. Hey, I told you, I saw this in Bulgaria. Bulgarians would say, why do we have so many problems with corruption? And, well, we were under 500 years and there was Asian Turks. What do you expect? Or what Edward Said in Colombia called Orientalism. These people, these Asians are so bad. And it's a justification for imperialism. We were bringing enlightened civilization to the rest of the world. And we occupy Palestine for the Jews, for the European Jews. We're doing you a favor, you Arabs. And we deserve it because of what we went through. This notion of stereotyping is law-like. Let me summarize in terms of politics. People tend to see the world around them in a way that's self-serving. I would tend to see the world in terms of your motivations, your perspectives, in a stereotypical way that makes me feel good about doing whatever I want to do. If I'm controlling you, it's for your own good. The way white people in America justified slavery. Slavery's good. We're taking those pagans from Africa with their, so backward and primitive, and we're bringing them to America, and they're learning about Jesus, and they're becoming civilized. We tend to see the world in a way that allows me to feel good about doing whatever it is I want to do. Anyway. And you ask me, what's your justification? Well, I'll give you a justification. I just did. Slavery was good. Imperialism is good. Zionism is good. And it's also called motivated reasoning. Motivated reasoning, if you do a Google search, that's the easiest term to find that describes this cognitive psychological process, motivated reasoning. And the biggest names in this area were from the middle of the 20th century. Leon Festinger and Fritz Heider described cognitive balancing. Leon Festinger and Fritz Heider were the psychologists who talked about how people's thinking processes are often subconsciously affected by their motivations, which they themselves might not know, right? Sigmund Freud, of course, was the first one to talk about that, how people tend to, they are driven and motivated by emotions that they don't even realize. They're driven by motivations they're not aware of. So Leon Festinger, he's still alive, evidently. Oh, no, he died, 89. And Fritz Heider is another one. These are like the foundation. These are social psychologists. And okay, so this goes back to the discussion of the nation state, of the different kinds of states. And if I were to open up that file again on Macedonia, when communism collapsed, European Union is a peace strategy. How are we going to keep peace in Europe? These former communist countries have so many problems. They have to change, revolutionize their economies, their politics, through revolutionary change. How are we going to help? How are we going to keep peace, how are we going to make sure that they don't elect new Mussolinis and new Hitlers? And I already told you about the key comunitary. If you want to become European Bulgaria, this is what you have to do. Adopt European Union laws, give all of your own laws in all areas, all 8,000 pages of them, and implement it, and voila, you become European. You become prosperous, peaceful, just like the Germans, just like the French, just like the Italians with their nice refrigerators and cars and apartments. Of course, it hasn't happened. It has for a lot of people, but not for the majority, and they're getting upset. In the 30 years since those big dreams were expressed. But keeping peace in Europe is a challenge. And again, remember, it's the nation states. It's France and Germany and Italy that's got the money. Well, Germany has got the money. They've got the militaries. Who's going to intervene in Macedonia and put peacekeeping forces, peacekeeping soldiers, and peacekeeping police there? Is it going to be Czech Republic? Maybe a couple policemen. They're going to have to come from the rich, powerful nation states of the European Union. But they have to come and not be seen as foreign conquerors who are again invading to occupy us the way the Germans and Italians invaded the Balkans in the 1940s. No! Can't do it that way. Gotta make them believe that Europe, there's this thing called Europe that really isn't controllable. It's not Berlin, not Paris, Europe. And you have this history, as we already described, of how, oh, we're running out of time. Shit. I get too excited. You see? God darn it. I forgot the debate. I'm supposed to shut down this computer so I can download the Zoom file. So what are we going to do? I guess do it on Friday? Monday? The debate? Well, okay, you wrote your parent. There's nobody signed up for the debate. So that's good because I'm not screwing over anybody. But we'll do the debate on Monday in the 1 hour Zoom class. Because the way this works, now so who's ever going to help me, that's why, it would be so much easier to just do it on my laptop. But I have to shut down Zoom. So who's going to help me? Well, before we do, ethnic Bosnia and Herzegovina, they want to join the European Union. I mean, this is a country there's no majority of people in this country, of this 4 million people who live here, there's no ethnic majority. They consist of Serbs, and they consist of Croats and Bosniaks. Bosniaks are Muslim Serbs. You can imagine how these Serbs view these Muslim Slavs. They speak Serbian type language, but they're Muslim. Ah, you traitors! You converted to Islam because you wanted the money of the Ottoman Empire. Oh, hatred. Led to genocidal violence 25 years ago when I was there in Bulgaria. Croats the same way. We are so European. These Serbs, they were part of the Byzantine Ottoman Empire. But we Roman Croats are Roman Catholics, part of the Habsburg Empire. We're more European than anybody else. And Europe's cool, right? Europe's cool. But everybody hates the Muslims. Traitors! The living legacy of 500 years in Ottoman enslavement. Ugly stuff. If you're one of the 10% of the population of Bulgaria that is Muslim, you're going to be offended. And they are offended. You're telling me Okay, so I describe these things because you cannot understand politics unless you understand emotion. You have to understand emotion. It means you have to understand the tendency towards stereotype. Politics is not primarily about this. It's not primarily about it. A lot of times it is, but this is not why people kill and die. They don't do it for this. They do it for this if they need this so that I can feel secure and proud, but they don't do it just for this. They do it because of their desire for dignity and freedom for themselves, and that means their people, from perceived threats. The Japanese, the Americans, the British, the Armenians, the Turks, whoever that threat is perceived to be. Okay, so I got to figure out how to do this. Hold a second. So I guess I just stop this and let's leave the group. Yeah?